I had been searching for a new dresser for weeks, scouring various online marketplaces and thrift stores. I finally came across one on Craigslist that seemed to be like a perfect fit. It was a vintage piece, with intricate carvings and a rich, dark wood finish. The price was too good to pass up, so I quickly sent the seller a message and arranged to meet them the following day. As I pulled up to the address they had given me, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The neighborhood was run down and abandoned, with broken windows and graffiti covering the walls. I tried to shake off my nerves and remind myself that I was just here to buy a dresser. I knocked on the door of this gross-looking house and was greeted by a tall man with pale skin and dark circles under his eyes. He led me inside, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up as I walked in. The creepy feeling was starting to make my heart beat harder than normal. I could feel my chest pumping blood at a faster rate than before. The dresser was in a room at the back of the house, and it was actually beautiful. It is interesting such a nice dresser is in such a dirty house, and as I approached it, I noticed something strange about the drawers. They were all slightly ajar, as if someone had been rummaging through them in a hurry. It looked as if someone had ransacked it like in a mafia movie. Some of the drawers were off their hinges, but I was able to fix them easily with no trouble. I did see some loose papers in the drawers, but I just pushed them in because I didn't want to delay getting out of there. I turned to the seller and asked if he had any idea what might have caused this, but he just shrugged and told me he had no idea. I hesitated, wondering if I should leave the dresser behind and get out of there, but the seller seemed so eager to sell it to me, I didn't want to be rude. Maybe I should be rude. I don't owe this guy anything. The man was giving me very creepy vibes, like some murderer. I eventually decided to go through with the purchase, and the seller helped me load the dresser into my car. I buttoned everything up, and after it was loaded, I said thank you to the man. He said, "No problem. Have a safe trip home, and watch out for suspicious people." That was weird, I thought. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the whole situation. When I finally got the dresser home and started to unpack it, I discovered the reason for the strange feeling I had experienced. Inside one of the drawers, I found a collection of old, yellowed newspaper articles about a string of murders that had occurred in the neighborhood where I had purchased the dresser. There were pictures of different children as well, and the man I had just bought it from was listed as the main suspect in the articles. I put two and two together and realized that the man had committed the crimes and used the dresser to keep some mementos. He must have forgot some of them in the dresser when he sold it to me, as it seems to be a long time ago that these murders occurred. I immediately threw the dresser out and vowed never to purchase anything from Craigslist again. I'm just kidding. I kept the dresser. So sue me. I had been searching for a new desk for my home office for a few weeks, and finally found the perfect one on Craigslist. It was a beautiful antique oak desk with intricate carved details and a large surface area for all my work. The seller seemed legitimate and had good reviews, so I decided to take a chance and buy it. I arranged to meet the seller at a local storage unit to pick up the desk. When I arrived, I was greeted by a sketchy-looking man who seemed nervous and agitated. He led me to a dark corner of the storage unit and pointed to the desk covered with a dirty tarp. I was hoping that the desk would be in better shape than the rest of the contents of the storage unit. We will see. As I lifted the tarp to inspect the desk, the condition of the desk did look pretty good. However, upon further inspection, I noticed some strange symbols etched into the wood in various locations. One of the etchings was clearly a pentagram, a symbol of the devil. It was then that I realized I had made a terrible mistake. I had done my homework and even checked seller reviews. With the man's nervous behavior, I was starting to wonder if this was the seller after all. I tried to back away and leave, but the seller grabbed me by the arm. His intentions were to lock me in the storage unit. I broke free and kicked him in the shins. I closed the storage unit on him, locking him inside as he planned for me all along. I quickly gathered my things and fled the storage unit. As I was driving out, I saw a car filled with large, scary individuals driving past me. We locked eyes and I hit the gas. I pulled out my phone and called the police right there. The car made an aggressive U-turn and started following me. I told the dispatcher where I was, and I was being pursued by a car behind me. The dispatcher told me to stay on the phone until the police met up with my vehicle. Within a few minutes, 2 police cars pulled over my pursuer and arrested them all. I told the police about the guy locked in the storage unit and they picked him up as well. In conclusion, the seller was not a legitimate seller at all, but a member of a satanic cult using Craigslist to sell cursed objects to unsuspecting buyers. I am not sure how the group hacked someone's Craigslist account to post an ad for an ambush, but they did, and I was none the wiser. The people in the car following me were part of the cult as well, and knew I was there to get the desk. Their plan was to capture me and sacrifice me by burning me at their satanic cult ritual. I learned my lesson to never trust Craigslist again, and to always be cautious when buying things from strangers. I had always been a bit of a bargain hunter, so when I saw a listing on Craigslist for a vintage dresser at a steal of a price, I couldn't resist. The seller lived in a secluded part of town, but I figured it was worth the drive to save some money. As I drove down the winding, tree-lined road, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The houses were all abandoned and dilapidated, and their air felt thick and heavy. I saw some cars, but they looked rusted and in disrepair. Wheels were missing off some, as glass was shattered on others. Why does this dresser have to be in this neighborhood? I thought. Hopefully I get through this and it looks better down the road. Unfortunately, it did not get any better. When I finally arrived at the seller's house, I was greeted by an old, hunched-over woman with a sly grin on her face. She led me inside, and I was immediately struck by overwhelming smell of decay and rot. How can people live like this, I thought. The house looked like it was straight out of an episode of Hoarders. I tried to focus on the task at hand, but as I looked around the cluttered room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I looked around and did not see anyone, but I still felt a presence. It was like when you have your eyes closed and someone approaches you, and you just know someone is there. The dresser was a steal of a price. As I handed over the cash and prepared to load the dresser into my car, the old woman cackled and told me that the dresser was cursed. She claimed that anyone who owned it would be visited by a vengeful spirit seeking retribution for an old wrong. She told me that the dresser had brought her misfortune, as she was once married to a wealthy man and had everything. As time went on, her husband died in a car crash. She was unable to marry again, and she had never had any kids. Her bank account depleted so much over the years that she had resorted to living in filth and not trying anymore. She blamed it all on the dresser. I laughed it off, thinking it was just an old woman's crazy ramblings. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. But as I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. I think that woman's story got inside my head. When I finally arrived at my house, I was relieved to have made it home safely. But as I unpacked the dresser, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking in the shadows, waiting for its chance to strike. I put the dresser in the house and had it all set up. In the next few weeks, I heard things falling without explanation, furniture breaking, and flooded toilets. I have had constant bad luck with my household items lately. I almost ran out of plates and glass cups and have resorted to all plastic. I got in a car crash. Although minor, my car was declared total and insurance gave me a quarter of what I still owed on it. Since then, I've tried to sell the dresser, but no one will take it. The final straw was when I was fired from my job for a misunderstanding that wasn't even my fault. This is just absurd, and I was starting to think that the dresser was in fact cursed. I put the dresser in my car and I took it to the junkyard. I paid extra to see it crushed. After that, my luck seemed to improve dramatically. I will never buy something again from Craigslist, no matter how good of a deal it seems to be. When you buy a used item, you never know what else you're bringing home with your bargain. There was a beautiful girl named Brandy. You would think she was the most popular girl in town because of her beauty. However, she was quiet and introverted student who always kept to herself. She never really spoke to anyone and had no friends. From the looks of it, she looked like a well-mannered girl that was trying to do the right thing. But Brandy had a secret that nobody knew about. She was just waiting for the right person to come along. She would have an obsessive personality about males sometimes, and didn't know what to think of it. She was considered a yandere. For those who don't know, a yandere is a character who is sweet and innocent on the outside, but on the inside, they are completely obsessed with someone to the point where they might become dangerously possessive or violent. Brandy's obsession was with a boy named Michael. Michael was a popular guy in school. He was outgoing, friendly, and always had a smile on his face. He was the complete opposite of Brandy, but she couldn't help but fall in love with him. She would often watch him from a distance, admiring his every move. She loved the way he laughed, the way he talked, the way he walked. She loved everything about him, but had not even said a word to him. He had no idea who she was. They had never talked at all or interacted. They had never even bumped into each other on accident. Why was Brandy so obsessed with Michael? Brandy's love for Michael soon turned into an obsession. She started stalking him, following him everywhere he went. He would never see her, but she was always there. She would often hide behind corners, watching him as he walked by. She would take pictures of him on her phone without his knowledge, and even would collect his discarded items, like used tissues or his hair. She created a Pinterest, YouTube channel, TikTok, and Twitter that was dedicated to Michael and her love for him. She did not have many followers that she knew, but mostly complete strangers. She would talk about what Michael was doing in the videos and pretended she was his girlfriend. Most viewers thought she was actually his girlfriend and gave comments that were supportive of their fake relationship. The disturbing thing is that viewers of the stalking content did not report the content, but liked and followed it immensely. Finally, one day, Michael saw Brandy in the corner of his eye. He saw her on her phone behind a corner taking a video of him. He went directly up to her and asked her what she was doing. She was so shocked and scared, she did not know what to say. He asked if she was recording him. She said nothing. He was creeped out by her behavior and asked her to stop. Brandy was heartbroken. She couldn't believe that Michael would reject her. She thought that they were meant to be together, forever. She had dedicated her life to him and had so many hopes and dreams with him that would never happen now. From that day on, Brandy's obsession with Michael became more intense. She would leave love letters on his locker, write his name in her notebooks, and even made a shrine dedicated to him in her room. She would often take to a doll that she made in his likeness, pretending that he was there with her. Michael began to notice that Brandy's behavior was becoming more and more bizarre. He became afraid of her and started to avoid her at all costs. But Brandy couldn't take the rejection. She was determined to have Michael all to herself, even if it meant hurting him or hurting anyone who got in her way. One late night, Michael came home to his house. His parents were not home, on a date or something. He took off his jacket and walked towards the closet to hang it up. As he opened the door, Brandy lunged a kitchen knife right into his left chest. He pulled it out and started fighting for his life. Michael fought back, trying to defend himself from Brandy's vicious knife swings. But Brandy was too strong. She was too fueled by her love for Michael and was determined to make him pay, no matter what the cost. The struggle continued as it was noticed by some people walking their dog outside. They could see the attack through the window, but thought Michael was attacking Brandy. They called the police immediately. The police arrived and they found Michael lying on the floor, covered in blood, and Brandy standing over him with a knife in her hand. Brandy was arrested and charged with attempted murder. She was sent to a mental rehabilitation clinic on Shutter Island, where she still resides to this day. Her obsession with Michael never faded, even after all these years. She has thousands of drawings of Michael on her walls in her room. She still talks to the doll she made in his likeness, and she still has dreams of the day when they can be together, forever. Watch your back and know your surroundings. You may have an interested person watching your every move. There was a girl named Olivia who was deeply in love with a boy named Noah. She was so in love that it consumed her every thought and action. She would follow him everywhere, taking pictures of him when he wasn't looking, and sneaking into his room to watch him sleep. Noah was unaware of Olivia's obsessive behavior and thought she was just a friendly classmate. However, her obsession grew stronger every day, and she started to see anyone who got close to Noah as a threat. She would lash out at other girls who spoke to him, and would become violent towards any female she thought was getting too close to him. One day, Noah had a new girlfriend named Ayumi. Olivia was livid and felt betrayed. She could not let this be allowed. Noah was hers. She decided to do something about it. She started stalking Ayumi, following her around during her daily activities. Olivia found out where Ayumi lived and devised a plan to take her out. One night, Olivia snuck into Ayumi's house and watched her sleep for a while. While she was standing there watching Ayumi sleep peacefully, she thought, how can Noah like this girl? She isn't even pretty. I'm pretty, not her. I hate her. She doesn't deserve to live. Olivia grabbed a pillow and put it on Ayumi's face. She held it as hard as she could. Olivia was awakened by her sudden lack of oxygen and struggled to escape the situation. Olivia was too powerful, and Ayumi did not stand a chance. Ayumi died by Olivia's hands and would never see Noah again. Noah was devastated by the loss of Ayumi and didn't know what to do. Olivia saw this as an opportunity to comfort him and show him that she was the only one that truly loved him. She approached Noah and expressed her condolences for his loss. He was happy about her concern and gave his thanks to her. She was so excited. He really liked her. They became closer over time, and Noah had no idea that Olivia was the one that murdered his girlfriend. They started hanging out often. At first, Noah was really happy to spend time with Olivia. She was so kind to him and helped him with whatever was troubling him. She was very beautiful as well, and he was very attracted to her. However, he had not made any moves yet because he was still grieving over the loss of his girlfriend. This irritated Olivia, who was growing impatient. Olivia's obsession grew even stronger. She would call Noah all the time. At first, he was happy to talk to her. Over time, though, he realized that there was something going on with Olivia. She would call almost constantly. If he did not answer, she would send him a lot of text messages. Noah liked the attention he was getting from Olivia, but this was going overboard. When he asked her to stop sending so many messages, she would just respond, I was concerned about you and wanted to make sure you were okay. It is hard to make someone that cares about you stop trying to help you. But where's the line? How many missed calls and text messages is too much? The number of text messages that were expressing concerns was pushing to 50 each time Noah did not answer for a while. This happened when he was in class, at the gym, or sleeping. Noah was getting tired of giving Olivia a break. After a while, she started to become more and more violent. She would lash out at anyone who she thought was getting in the way of her and Noah. She even started to hurt Noah himself. At that time, he started to see some major problems with Olivia. He decided to confront her and break the whole thing off. He appreciated her concern and was happy she helped him through a rough time in his life, but he had to move on. They were not going to be together or even friends anymore. Olivia did not take the news well. When she went home, her cat came to her for a daily dose of affection. Olivia pet her cat with love and affection. Suddenly, she squeezed her cat until it struggled to breathe. She had killed her cat, her best friend, because of a boy. One day, Olivia's obsession reached a breaking point. Noah found a new girlfriend, and Olivia couldn't handle it. She followed them on a date to a restaurant. They got a table outside and ordered a fancy meal they would enjoy together. Noah really liked the new girl and was determined to make a good impression. They had such a great time throughout the course meal and were holding hands lovingly. The dessert came out and they were feeding each other with some sensual stares and strong affection. Olivia appeared suddenly in the outside dining area and took out a butcher knife. She attacked the girl, leaving her badly injured. After stabbing the girl multiple times, she ran away. It was so quick that Noah had no time to react to stop it from happening. Noah saw what Olivia had done and was terrified. He used a towel to create a tourniquet and was able to stop the bleeding on his date. He called the police. Olivia was arrested for the attack and sent to the county jail. Noah tried to move on with his life, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Olivia was still watching him. He would look over his shoulder constantly and was always on edge. As the years went by, the terrible events slightly faded, and Noah was able to relax a little bit. Olivia was detained, and he did not have to live in fear forever. He was tired of looking at every person and any place that he went, looking for Olivia to appear with a butcher knife to finish him off. One night, Noah was walking home from a late shift at work when he saw Olivia waiting for him outside of his apartment building. He tried to run, but she caught up to him and tackled him to the ground. She whispered in his ear, they were meant to be together forever, and pulled out a knife. Noah struggled against Olivia, but he couldn't break free. She plunged a knife into his heart, killing him instantly. Olivia smiled as she watched Noah take his last breath, believing that they were finally together forever. The police found Noah's body the next morning and began to investigate the case. They discovered that Olivia had escaped from the local penitentiary and had been on the run for weeks. They launched a manhunt for her, but she was never found. Just remember, once you have a stalker, you always have a stalker. If they're being detained, it's only a matter of time before they come and find you. It was just another day at school for Mark, a high school senior, who spent most of his time playing video games and hanging out with his friends. He was a popular kid, but he never cared about being famous or being in the spotlight. All he wanted was to pass his final exams and get into a good college. Little did he know that his life was about to take a drastic turn, thanks to a girl in his class named Catherine. Catherine was a quiet and reserved girl who never spoke to anyone in class except for Mark. She had been secretly in love with him for years, but Mark had never noticed throughout their long friendship. Catherine had never indicated to Mark that she was in love with him, and behaved as a friend would. Mark was under the impression that their friendship was really strong. He could always reach out to her for advice. She would always come over and hang out and talk to Mark if he asked her to do so. She really was the best friend Mark ever had. One day, Mark came to school and found a note on his locker. A note was from Catherine. It said, "Meet me after school at the park." Mark didn't know what to make of it, but he decided to go anyways, thinking that Catherine just wanted to do something fun. When Mark arrived at the park, he found Catherine waiting for him. She looked nervous and fidgety, and she was carrying a large backpack. Mark asked her what was in the backpack, but Catherine just smiled and said, "Don't worry about it. I just want to spend some time alone with you." Mark and Catherine spent the afternoon together, talking about their favorite books, movies, and video games. Just as the sun began to set, Catherine's behavior started to become more and more strange. She kept staring at Mark with an intense look in her eyes, and she wouldn't let him leave the park. When Mark tried to get up and go home, Catherine grabbed him by the arm and said, "Please don't go, Mark. I love you so much. I can't live without you." Mark started to feel scared, and he tried to break free from Catherine's grasp. But Catherine was surprisingly strong, and she wouldn't let go. She started to cry, and Mark felt bad for her. He didn't want to hurt her feelings, but he knew he had to get away. As he turned to leave, he heard a loud thud behind him. When he looked back, he saw Catherine lying on the ground, her backpack open beside her. Mark walked over to her and saw that she had a large kitchen knife in her hand. She had stabbed herself in the stomach, and blood was pouring out of her wound. Mark called 911, and Catherine was rushed to the hospital. She survived, but she was never the same again. She became more obsessed with Mark than ever before, and she started to stalk him wherever he went. She would show up to his house uninvited, send him hundreds of text messages, and even leave love letters in his locker. Mark didn't know what to do. He was scared for his life, and he didn't know how to make Catherine stop. He tried talking to her, telling her that he didn't feel the same way, but she wouldn't listen. She was convinced that Mark was the only one for her, and she would stop at nothing to make him hers. One day, Mark came home from school and found Catherine waiting for him in his room. She had broken into his house and she was sitting on his bed, wearing a white wedding dress. Mark was terrified, but he decided to hear what she had to say. Catherine told Mark that she was feeling extremely obsessed with him and couldn't stop thinking about him. She apologized to him for stabbing herself. She asked him if he could ever forgive her. Saying that she was going through a terrible situation where she was determined to be self-destructive, Mark lost his sense of fear and grabbed her hand. He looked into her eyes and said, "We will get through this together." She cried uncontrollably. Mark took a chance on Catherine, his best friend for a long time. She was always good to him. She deserved a chance in life. 13 years later, we are still married. We have 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl. Catherine had some personal trauma earlier in her life that caused her to act out in some scary ways. She had never told me about it, and I never knew. I didn't know she would be the best and most genuine person that I would ever have met. It turns out that she was not a yandere, but she just needed a partner to help her get better. I've been that partner for her. Sometimes Catherine can revert to some of her stalkerish, obsessive ways. I am her medicine, though. Once I comfort her, she instantly feels better, and her obsessions fade. I am okay with having someone obsess over me. Being with her is the best decision I ever made. Sometimes stalkers can seem terrifying. There's somebody out there for everyone. It could be a stalker, it could be a normal relationship. But I have a feeling that Catherine will never leave Mark. There was a young girl named Vanessa who was obsessed with TikTok. She spent countless hours scrolling through the never-ending feed of dance challenges, lip-syncing videos, and silly pranks. It was her favorite app, and she couldn't get enough of it. She would lay down and start scrolling, and 3 to 4 hours later, she would realize how late it was and turn it off. It had a major hold on her, and it was hard to stop watching for some reason. Was this normal, she thought? She did some research and discovered that many others were binge-watching TikTok content. After discovering that, she felt much better about herself and continued to watch way too much. She was participating in follow trains and amassed a following of 5,000 random people on the app. She didn't really know any of the people, but figured she would have more people to see her dance videos when she did start introducing her content. However, something strange began to happen as Vanessa spent more and more time on the app. She started noticing odd glitches in the video she watched, like sudden jumps in the footage or strange flashes of light. At first, she brushed it off as just a technical issue with the app or her phone. She looked at all her opened apps and closed them. Her phone worked well after that, but then it began to glitch again. She looked at her storage and erased some unnecessary apps, erased some unwanted photos, and deleted some videos. After that, she had exhausted all her troubleshooting efforts, but the glitches became more frequent and unsettling. She couldn't ignore them any longer. One night, as Vanessa was browsing through her huge follower list, she noticed a particular user that caught her eye. It was user 666, who did not have a profile picture. Curious, she looked at user 666 videos. There was a bunch of weird videos with images of murder, satanic rituals, and women sleeping with a scary masked figure standing in the background behind them. It was probably all fake as people put the weirdest stuff on the internet. However, there was one video that caught her attention. The video was titled, "Do Not Watch This." Vanessa's curiosity got the best of her, and she clicked the video anyway. The screen went black, and she heard a faint whispering sound. Suddenly, a face appeared on the screen. It was pale and twisted, with eyes that seemed to stare straight through her. Suddenly terrified, Vanessa quickly tried to exit out of the video, but it wouldn't let her. The face on the screen began to move and contort in ways that seemed impossible, and the whispering sound grew louder and more sinister. She was frozen in terror as she watched the video, until it finally ended. leaving her shaking and drenched in sweat. She was telling herself, it's just a video, but she felt very disturbed after watching it. From that night on, Vanessa couldn't stop thinking about the do not watch video. She tried to brush it off as a simple prank, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something much darker and more sinister at play. Her obsession with TikTok began to consume her, and she spent all her waking hours searching for more videos that might hold clues to what was really going on. She called in sick to work multiple days in a row, spending all her time on the app to search for more. As she dug deeper into the app, she found more and more disturbing content. There were videos of people being stalked and attacked, of strange rituals and sacrifices, and even people disappearing without a trace. She was finding videos that looked legitimately real now, and it was scaring her more than ever. Was it real? She thought. It seemed like TikTok had become the breeding ground for the darkest and most twisted aspects of human nature. Vanessa was terrified, but she couldn't look away. She felt like she was being drawn deeper and deeper into the darkness, and she knew she was risking her own safety by continuing to use the app. But she couldn't help herself. The thrill of the unknown was too powerful to resist. One night, Vanessa received a message from a user named The Master. The message was simple: join us. She didn't know what that meant, but something about the message sent shivers down her spine. She tried to ignore it, but the message kept popping up in red, no matter how many times she tried to delete it. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Vanessa began to notice strange things happening in her own life. She would wake up in the middle of the night to find her phone playing TikTok videos on its own, even though she knew she had turned the app off. She started seeing strange symbols and messages written in red paint on the walls in her room, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. When she would turn the lights on, the symbols would disappear and the feeling of being watched would go away, but it would happen over and over and over again. She was starting to lose her mind. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. She deleted the app and tried to move on with her life, but the strange occurrences did not stop. She still heard whispers in the darkness, and she would still catch glimpses of shadowy figures lurking just out of sight. She knew she had unleashed something dark and terrible by using TikTok, and she feared that it would follow her for the rest of her life. In the end, Vanessa was never able to escape the horror that she had unleashed. She disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only her cell phone, with TikTok videos playing when the police arrived for a wellness check. Be careful about the obsessive power of TikTok. Be careful it does not take over your life. At first, it was just harmless videos of dancing, lip syncing, and funny skits. But as the app gained popularity, so did the strange, unsettling content. Users began posting videos of themselves performing creepy rituals, summoning ghosts and demons, and sharing their encounters with the supernatural. Some claimed that TikTok was a portal to the other side, and they had made contact with entities that were not of this world. Others warned of a dark presence on the app, one that would prey on unsuspecting users and lure them into its clutches. They spoke of a mysterious figure who would appear in the background of videos, watching and waiting, before disappearing without a trace. But the warnings were dismissed as mere superstitions, the ramblings of a few paranoid users. After all, it was just an app, right? What harm could it do? But as more and more people joined TikTok, the strange occurrences began to escalate. Users reported seeing the same figure in their dreams, a tall, shadowy figure with glowing eyes and a sinister grin. They claimed that the figure was speaking to them, urging them to create more videos and share them with the world. So they did. And then came the rumors of disappearances. Users who had been uploading dark and unsettling videos suddenly went quiet, their accounts deleted without a trace. Some speculated that they had simply moved on to other platforms, while others feared the worst. But the most chilling reports came from those who have claimed to made contact with the entity behind it all. They described a world beyond our own, a realm of darkness and chaos that would be accessed through TikTok. They spoke of a being that called itself the Creator, a malevolent force that demands sacrifices in exchange for power and fame. The Creator could get you followers, likes, and shares, but at a price. It demanded human sacrifice. As users discovered this, they did the creator's bidding. A slew of videos were uploaded with users showing their human sacrifices. Once reported, the videos were taken down from the platform quickly. It was the most disgusting stuff you had ever seen. I don't even want to talk too much about it. After a while, too many videos were being uploaded with human sacrifice, and the platform couldn't keep up with all of them. It was having trouble taking them all down. From there, the virus spread across the platform. It wasn't long before TikTok became synonymous with horror and fear. Parents warned their children to stay away from the app, and schools began banning it altogether. But for some, the allure of power and fame was too strong to resist. They continued to upload videos, hoping to catch the attention of the creator and gain access to fame and fortune. There were many users that were getting fame and monetization through the process, but for every success story, there were countless others who had fallen victim to the creator's grasp. They had made the ultimate sacrifice, and their souls were claimed by the darkness that lay beyond TikTok. And so the warnings continue, whispered from one user to the next. Beware of the app, they say. Beware of the price of fame. Beware of the creator. For on TikTok, nothing is what it seems, and the price of fame may be more than you're willing to pay. It was a late shift kind of night, and I was the only one working at the pizza place in my town. I had just received an order for delivery to a destination in a remote location in town, according to the map. The customer had requested extra cheese and pepperoni. Okay, whatever. It was going to turn out to be the last order of the night, and I was ready to get this over with so I could close up and go home. There was no tip for this order. Usually on a late night like this, you take the risk of either not getting any tip or a big one because drunk people tip pretty well. However, the order was in the outskirts of town, so it'll probably be nothing. I hesitated, but ultimately decided to go through with the delivery. I guess I have to since it's my job after all. There was a pretty nasty storm outside that I would have to deal with as well. As I drove down the winding, muddy road to the cabin, the storm raged on. Lightning lit up the sky, and wind howled through the trees. I could barely see my way and had my windshield wipers on full blast. I thought to myself, let me just get through this one and I'm done. When I finally arrived at the cabin, I knocked on the door and waited for a response. But there was none. I knocked again, but still no answer. I called out to the customer, but there was no response. I was about to turn and leave when the door suddenly swung open. A figure emerged from the darkness, their face obscured by the shadows. They grabbed the pizza from my hands and threw a wad of cash at me, telling me to leave and never come back. Well, that's fine. I got the cash. I turned around to go to the car, and I heard a loud scream from a woman coming from the house. I turned around and looked at the house. My heart was beating faster as I looked at the house. I saw the window curtain move and saw a glowing pair of eyes looking straight at me. I moved faster towards my car and the front door swung open. Two men in masks came bursting out of the house and started chasing me. I fled back to my car, heart racing. I got to the car quickly and started it. As I drove away, I couldn't calm down. I was freaking out. What were those guys doing in the cabin? And why did they seem so eager to get rid of me? I never returned to that cabin, and I quit delivering pizza after that. I finally took a chance and enrolled in college. I guess I was procrastinating, and almost losing my life got me to finally admit it. I am almost done with my senior year, and I'm going to be a graphic designer. However, the memory of that night still haunts me to this day. Thank God I will never have to deliver a pizza again. Good luck out there, pizza delivery brothers and sisters. It was a rainy kind of night, the kind of night that made you want to just curl up with a good book and forget the world outside. But for me, the storm was just another obstacle to overcome on my nightly rounds as a pizza delivery driver. I don't make much doing it, but a job is a job. I have to do it, rain or shine. I was in the car and had a few deliveries to do. As I drove through the deserted streets, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The wind howled like a pack of wolves, and the rain beat against my windshield like 1,000 tiny fists. The sound was eerie, but I just drowned it out with some loud music. I delivered my first order with no issues, got the cash tip, and moved on. I pulled up to my next delivery, a small house on the edge of town. I grabbed the pizza box and walked up to the front door, the rain drenching me to the bone. I should have worn a rain jacket, but whatever. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I knocked again, but still no response. I was about to turn around and leave when I saw the door open slightly, and I heard a faint whisper. Come in. I hesitated for a moment, but I was committed to delivering this pizza and getting out of here. I slowly opened the door and stepped inside. When I entered the house, it was dark and musty, the air thick with the smell of mold and decay. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear something moving in the shadows. I called out, "Hello? I have a pizza delivery for this address." There was no response, but I could feel eyes watching me. I began to feel increasingly uneasy and turned to leave when a voice whispered in my ear. I tried to run, but something grabbed me from behind and pulled me into a dark room to the side of the entrance that I entered. As I struggled to break free, I could feel hands clawing at my skin, tearing away my clothes. I screamed for help, but no one came. Suddenly, the room was illuminated by a sickly green light. Then I could see that I was surrounded by people, but they weren't human. They were like humans, but something was wrong with them, with twisted faces and razor-sharp teeth. One of the monsters spoke, its voice like 1,000 snakes hissing in unison.
Welcome to our world, pizza boy. We've been waiting for you.
I tried to fight back, but I was hopelessly outnumbered. The monster swarmed around me, tearing at my flesh and feasting on my blood. As my consciousness began to fade, I heard the monsters whispering to each other.
This is the best pizza we've ever tasted.
When the police found my car the next morning, it was empty. The pizza box was sitting on the passenger seat, untouched. To this day, no one knows what happened to me, or why my pizza delivery went so horribly wrong. But that is not how it ended, actually. Then, I woke up in the hospital. I had bite marks all over my body. The doctor saw me awake and yelled for his staff. They circled around me while I laid there on the hospital bed. I asked, "What happened?" I thought I had died. However, the doctor said that I had driven myself to the hospital in my own car and told the staff what happened to me. When I was finally put in the hospital bed, I passed out. I had dreamt that I was murdered, but in actuality, I escaped and was able to save myself. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. The hospital called the police when I came in. They responded to that house and found 10 cannibals living there. They were definitely trying to eat me. I somehow managed to break free, jumped out a window, and got away in my car. I wish I could say that the company took care of me after that incident, but they didn't. To my delivery drivers, when delivering pizza, don't go in the house. Just wait outside for the customer to come out to you, or you might be the next tasty treat instead of the pizza. It was another late night shift, and I was out delivering pizzas for the local pizza place. It was very cold outside, and the snow was starting to come down really hard. Apparently, there was supposed to be a solar eclipse tonight, if anybody really cares. I personally don't. As I drove through the howling wind and thick snow, I couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. I had heard rumors from the other drivers about strange occurrences happening on the job, but I never really believed them until now. The story I'm about to tell you creeped me out. As I approached my next delivery, the address seemed to be in the middle of nowhere. When I saw the house, the only light came from a single porch light that flickered in the wind. I parked my car and took a deep breath before making my way to the door. When I knocked, the door slowly creaked open. A strange smell wafted out, one that I couldn't quite place. It was a mixture of decay and something sweet. I called out, "Pizza delivery!" But there was no answer. I stepped inside and called out again. Still no answer. The only sound was the sound of my own breathing and the creaking of the old house. I cautiously made my way down the dark alley, the floorboards creaking under my feet. As I turned a corner, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. In the middle of a room was a table, covered in strange symbols and candles. At the center of the table was something that looked like a pizza box, but it was unlike anything I had ever seen before. It was made of some kind of dark, leathery material and was covered in strange symbols. I took a step closer, my curiosity getting the better of me. Suddenly, the candles on the table burst into life, illuminating the room with an eerie glow. I grasped and stumbled backwards, my heart racing. That's when I heard it. A soft, whispering voice that seems to come down from all around me. It was a language I couldn't understand, and I did not get the feeling that it was friendly. I realized then that I had stumbled upon something I was never meant to see. I turned around to run, but the door slammed shut behind me, trapping me inside. The symbols on the table began to glow, and the smell in the air grew stronger. It was the smell of death, decay, and something else, something I couldn't quite identify. In the flickering candlelight, I could see something moving in the shadows. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then I saw it clearly. It was a figure, hunched over and crawling towards me, its limbs twisted and deformed. I tried to scream, but my voice was caught in my throat. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move as the figure drew closer and closer. I knew then I was going to die. But just as it was about to reach me, the candles flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. The figure let out a blood-curdling scream and seemed to go away. I was there, sitting in the darkness by myself. Suddenly, something grabbed me by the neck and poured a liquid down my throat. I spit it out and resisted. It tasted like blood. Is this really happening to me? I don't remember much after that. I must have passed out or something. All I know is that when I woke up, I was back in my car with no memory of how I got there. I woke up with some strange liquid around my throat and on my shirt, like I threw up. My stomach did hurt like I threw up something big though. Something was forcing me to drink blood. Whose blood was that? Also, and finally, I had one hell of a headache. Since that night, I have never been able to look at pizza the same way again. Whenever I deliver a pizza to a strange or remote location, I always feel like something is watching me, waiting for me to let my guard down. I don't know what kind of dark magic or evil I stumbled upon that night, but I do know one thing. It's not something I ever want to experience again. I decided to go by myself for a hike. I grabbed the usual stuff like water, fire starters, and a space blanket. I have my Canon Rebel T7 and plan on taking some great pictures. I park in a crowded parking area used for multiple scenic trails in the area. I enjoy these walks a lot just to clear my head of unnecessary things. It is good to get unplugged once in a while and get away from all devices. I see a good amount of people walking past me, back towards the parking area where I am walking along the trail. I say hi to quite a few of them. Hikers are really pretty nice people. They could be rich business people or someone that just got out of a bad situation but just trying to clear their head. But they will always say hi to everyone. So I get to the first mile marker and I'm feeling pretty good. As I am moving on, I'm not seeing as many people as I did before. Maybe some of the cars at the parking area were for other trails and not this one. I get to mile marker 2 and I see a beautiful waterfall. That wasn't the only sight though. I see the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. She is in a very small bikini swimming in the water. The waterfall is pouring over her. She is so good looking. I am taken aback and a little flush. I want to take pictures, but now I don't because I don't want to seem like some weird creep. And I definitely don't want to go talk to this girl in the state that I'm in. That could be the worst thing for me. So I awkwardly gulp and continue on the trail away from the waterfall and the beautiful woman. I'm back on track and on my way to mile marker 3. As I'm leaving, the woman looks at me over her right shoulder and smiles at me. Oh boy. Okay, very exciting, but I need to get going so I can make it back to the car before the sun goes down. Now that I'm out of the uncomfortable situation, I arrive at mile marker 3. This area is beautiful. It has some creek beds with frogs, grasshoppers, and even a beaver all by his lonesome, just like me. I take some pictures while I'm walking around. As I am passing mile marker 3, I see a couple sitting on the side of the trail on a rock. The guy looks very tired. I approach them and ask them if everything's okay. They tell me the guy is feeling sick. I look up dehydration symptoms with my past knowledge as a rescue crew chief, and it does appear that he is dehydrated. I grab a bottle of water out of my bag and hand it to the guy. He thanks me and tells me he thinks he can make it back. The girl, who must have been his girlfriend, thanks me for helping out. She explained that he had just recently ran a marathon within the last week, and she told him they should not go on the hike, but he didn't listen. Lesson learned, I guess. As I am talking to them, I see the gorgeous woman in the distance out of the left corner of my eye, coming towards us. Oh no. So I tell them good luck, and let them know I will be back through this way when I hit Devil's Peak and come back. If they are still here, I can assist. So we part ways, and I start to head down to mile marker 4 with the woman trailing me slightly. So I try to get to mile marker 4 without causing too much of a scene, as if I'm trying to hide from her. Yes, I'm being introverted, but I'm trying to make some time for me so I can be better with my mental health. So I get to mile marker 4, the Devil's Peak, and it's a breathtaking view, just absolutely amazing. I take plenty of shots of the landscape. So I'm wrapping up my photo shoot when the attractive woman approaches me. Here it is. I knew it. I tried to escape this, but here we go. She says hello, and her voice is one of a kind beautiful. I awkwardly say hi and try not to look so weird. She giggles and says it's nice to meet me. She says the mountain landscape is so beautiful, which is why she has come this time of year. She said the sun hitting the trees a few hours before sunset is a work of art. I agree with her and let her know that's why I'm here, to enjoy the wonder of nature. She sees my camera and asks to see some of the pictures. I oblige her and show her the snaps that I got while I was out on the... I oblige her and show her the snaps that I got while I had been on the mountain. However, I did forget that I did take one picture of the waterfall when I first got there and didn't realize she was in the bikini swimming in the water. She's scrolling through my pictures, and I know that she's coming to that part. She gets there and says, "Oh, that's embarrassing." I reach for my camera and I say I'm sorry. I didn't know she was there, I promise. She smiles at me with the most beautiful smile and says, "Okay, I don't mind." My heart literally flutters out of my chest. This girl is pretty laid back and easygoing. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable suddenly. So we end up chatting up there on Devil's Peak, with a beautiful view for a while. So long, in fact, that my plan of returning before sunset was starting to run thin. When I realize this, I tell her we should probably head back now. She agrees. So with 4 miles left to go, we start heading back to the mountain to the parking area. Back down the mountain to the parking area. I do see the sun getting close to the horizon, but it's not there yet. We hit mile marker 3 with no trouble. We are moving quick. We get to mile marker 2, and I think we have time to at least take a couple of shots of the waterfall before we head down. Jessica says now you can take pictures without me in them this time. We both laugh about it, and I smile for the first time in a long time. I guess I have been pretty self-loathing, in a perpetual state of self-destruction, and somehow now I'm getting out of it. I guess I had accomplished my mission after all, of getting over the dreadful feeling of being left and worthless. I laugh and tell Jessica I will just be a minute. I take some good shots and wrap it up. We start heading down past mile marker 2 now. The sun is setting now, but there is an hour of nautical twilight we can use to our advantage to navigate the rest of the way. When the sun sets, it still shines around the curvature of the earth for an hour before it gets completely dark. So with that, I know I have an hour before I have to pull out my flashlight and navigate the rest of the way. That won't be the end of the world because we will almost be at the parking lot. I feel like Jessica and I have so much in common. She even lets me know that she had gone to the mountain because of a bad breakup she recently had and was trying her best to be alone and think about life. I told her I was doing the exact same thing. As we were getting to about the half-mile mark, I saw a string of red droplets going off the right side of the trail. I pointed it out to Jessica, and we both look at each other like, let's check it out real quick and then get back on our way just in case. We followed the trail of red oozy liquid to the man I met earlier that was dehydrated. The guy is now covered in blood and having agonal gasps. He's still alive. This is why I love Jessica to this very day. We both immediately rush to give him a quick assessment. He has some stab wounds. We stop the bleeding, but there's still some blood coming out. It's just not gushing anymore. We put him in a chair carry and go as fast as we can to the car. We hit the quarter mile and we are almost there. We have cell phone reception again in this area, so Jessica calls 911 and tells them we have a man that looks like he's been stabbed, that's breathing very heavily. She says, please meet us at the parking area for Devil's Peak. The police and ambulance report that they're on their way. We're going as fast as we possibly can because his life hangs in the balance. We don't know how this happened and we don't know where his girlfriend is, but none of that matters anymore. He needs to get to the hospital. We see the parking area in the distance and we are almost there. The man coughs and spews up blood. Please don't die, I thought. We get there and the paramedics are there waiting for us. Miraculously, they are able to stabilize him and get him to an emergency bed for transport. This is amazing. We did it. Jessica and I look at each other like we had just accomplished an amazing goal together. There was something really special between us, I thought. When the guy was stabilized, he told us that he thought he was dead. He said, earlier I wasn't feeling good, and I think I figured out why. I think my girlfriend's been poisoning me. Since I met her, I have been sick more than ever. In the last month, I've been coming down with a weird illness. It has happened multiple times, and it always seems to be after I eat her special soup, lobster bisque that she makes. It always tastes the same, but it consistently has a slightly weird taste in its background. I didn't want to criticize her cooking, so I didn't say anything. While I was laying there dying, I considered the fact that she poisoned the lobster bisque every time to be consistent so I would never notice. Why she's poisoning me, I don't know, but I do know that she's a very controlling person. She wants me to be where she wants me to be, when she wants me to be there, without question. I think it was a question of total control. When I broke up with her today on this mountain, I don't think she could take it, and she decided to end the relationship permanently. I want to thank you both so much for saving my life today. We shook hands with the man and parted ways. I looked at Jessica and she looked at me. I invited her to my cabin. She agreed and off we went. So it turns out that Jessica was a former Miss Nebraska and a high-paid model. We are happily married and have 3 children together. She is the absolute love of my life. I am so glad I went to the mountain that day to clear my head, because it changed my whole life, and in the process we saved a man, which is also pretty cool. Make sure you know the one that you're in a relationship with, and don't eat the lobster bisque if it tastes funny.